Hey traders, and welcome to the third episode of the Trading Psychology video series. And in today's episode I will talk about beliefs. In the second episode I was talking about our natural inclination for being lazy, and I was also talking about our instinctive motivators. I was talking about our instincts. Okay, so what was the stuff? Our natural inclination for being lazy is the defending mechanism. Let's put it this way. Our mind, our brain, doing nothing, consumes 9% of energy. And when we think hard, it consumes 25% of energy. Of course, you understand that if you will consume quarter of total body energy and you will work in this mode for pretty long time, it will lead to exhaustion. And that's why evolutionary an interesting mechanism was created. So let's say you increased your energy up to 25% because you need to solve some problem. You're thinking hard. And every time when the problem is solved, you don't need to think hard. And that's why you decrease your energy. So the mechanism is the following. When the energy is decreased, your brain, it injects several hormones that make you feel pleased. So these hormones are oxytocin, cannabinoids, and opioids. They make you feel pleased, but on the other hand, they make you addicted to them because they are nothing but drugs. So having these drugs, you feel pleased. Having no drugs, you feel stressed. And thinking hard, you feel stressed. Not thinking, you feel pleased. So this is the mechanism. Okay. Next, on the other hand, we have our three instinctive motivators. Every living creature, be it a one-cell organism or multi-cell organism like ourselves, it wants to survive. So in order to survive, we have three instincts that help us to survive. So the first instinct is food. The second one is replication, and the third one is dominance. Okay, in order to survive as an individual living being, you need some food. In order to survive as a biological species, you need replication. You need to pass your genes into next generations, and in order to get best chances for food and best chances for replication, you need what? You need dominance. You need to dominate over other living creatures. Because we have competitions, believe it or not, but biological species, biological individuals, they compete each other to get better food, to get better replication. Okay, so these three make us active. But evolutionary, it happened the way that we started collecting into large groups, into large societies, and quickly enough our antecessors, they realized that we don't need to have strong paws to survive if we live in large groups. We don't need to have sharp teeth. We don't need to have some physical stuff to survive. If you live in large groups, it is better to defend. It is much easier to survive if you collect in large groups. But there are some laws in every society. So you need to be useful for society as a whole. If you are not useful, in many cases you're simply kicked out from that society, and because you already lost your strong paws and sharp teeth, you cannot survive in wild nature. In most cases you cannot survive outside of the society. So it leads to death. Okay, and because you live in society, then there are some other laws begin to act. Not the biological selection happens when those who are stronger are selected and those who are stronger they actually survive. But in society it is a bit different. Those who obey some rules they survive. Those who are less angry, those who cannot socialize, those who can socialize, sorry. Because if you cannot obey some society rules and you only think of yourself and you don't think about the other part of society, you are quickly kicked out from that society. If you are very angry, same thing. If you cannot share your food, for example, same thing. Yes, you are kicked out of that society. So you need to obey, you need to share food, and you need to inhibit your animalistic inclinations. So your animalistic inclinations are your instincts, and if you live in society you need to inhibit your instincts. You are not allowed to rape somebody. Yes, it is the fastest way to replicate, just rape somebody. You are not allowed. You will quickly kicked out of the society. You need to date, then create family, and then you need to go the human way. Okay, you are not allowed to steal food. Yes, you need to go for a walk, you need to earn some money, and so on. You need to go a bit more difficult way. Well, so what I was talking about. So the three motivators, they are inhibited by a special part of our brain that was selected throughout our evolution as social beings. Not as biological individuals, yes, but as our social beings. When we started to live in big groups, we quickly started selecting human beings who obey rules, who obey some laws, who share food, and who has bigger associative regions of a brain. You see that? If you have a bigger associative region, this associative region, it can inhibit your animalistic inclination. So the problem nowadays is that we have so big associative regions that they inhibit this thing too much. That's why we don't want to do something. We don't want to replicate. We don't want to dominate. We don't want to fight for food or whatever. In many cases, people are lazy. So the two mechanisms for being lazy is first endogenic drugs. The second one is big associative regions that inhibit our activity. Well, so that was the second lesson. Now let's talk about the third lesson about beliefs. So what are beliefs? Beliefs is what you believe in. But before we start talking about beliefs, let me switch the perspective and let us talk about belief from a psychological level. If we talk about belief from a psychological level, let us think of an example of some belief. Suppose you believe that dogs are angry. So this is your belief. Dog equals angry. So what is your thinking process? Yes, and what is your action? What are your actions driven by this belief? Okay. First of all, maybe some of you already know this, but when you have some belief installed in your mind, yes, your brain is acting a specific way that you find facts supporting that belief, and you skip facts that conflict that belief. So this is called a support. So belief demands support. Support. Okay. Maybe many of you noticed that. In our example, if we have a belief that dog equals angry, maybe this belief installed in a childhood when you were beaten by a dog, and since then you installed that belief, and every time you interact with dogs you can only see those sharp teeth, you can only see that angry behavior, and you skip that friendly signs like waving tail or whatever. Yes, so you believe in dogs, that dogs are angry. Okay, so the second thing is that belief, it demands expansion. Expansion. It wants to be stronger than it was earlier. It wants to be stronger than it was earlier. So not only every time you prove yourself that dogs are angry, the more facts you find. So these two are very interconnected. So you try to support that belief, and you skip all the facts that conflict that belief. And when you support that belief, it naturally expands, it becomes stronger, and it takes a greater part of your mind. So if you will expand it further and further and further, you will have the so-called EDA fix. So when you only think of that belief and you don't think of anything else. So beliefs inside our mind, different beliefs, they compete each other, they conquer. So this belief, that belief, and the beliefs demand expansion means that one belief wants to take greater space of your mind. Okay, so and the third thing that we know about beliefs is that belief demand, and this is expansion, and this is expression. Expression. So you might have noticed, yes, that when you install some belief, accidentally, subconsciously or consciously, you talk about that belief to everybody. And if somebody is not agreed with you, you try to convince. And if somebody attacks you, you try to defend your beliefs. So support means that you find some facts. Expansion means that you belief takes greater space in your mind. It becomes stronger and stronger. Maybe we can unite the two as this. Expression means that you show it off. You show your belief to others and you defend it. When others don't agree with your belief, you defend it. So beliefs are the only reasons why we have wars. Some guys believe in God, others believe in some other guys. So these guys don't agree with those guys and they go and kill them because they have other belief. That's it. Wars have a bit more biological regions than psychological regions, and I think not only because you believe in God, believing God or not believing in God is not the reason for war. It is the trigger for war. The reason for war is dominance, biological dominance. Okay, but now look at it from a biological perspective. So what is support? Supporting belief, giving it every time, giving it more energy to this belief. When you find facts proving that you are right, you saw a dog, it is running fast. Why it is running fast? Because it is angry. Okay, I just proved it to myself. So you are you're giving food to your belief. Okay, so what is expansion? Yes, when belief expands, takes more and more part of your mind, and you have less other beliefs, and greater this belief. It is replication. So these two, the first and the second, are vital for survival. And because belief wants to survive, it demands food and it wants to replicate or expand. Okay. And the last one is expression. What is expression? From a biological point of view, it is dominance. You express beliefs, you show them off, you are dominating, you try to dominate. Express yourself means dominate. Look at how good I am. Look at how smart I am. You are showing yourself off, you express. This is dominance. So, if our beliefs, psychological beliefs, they possess the instincts of living creatures, can we say that our beliefs are living creatures as well? Well, to say this, we should first decide what is a living creature. Something that is born, that is growing, something that replicates, and something that is dying. Can you apply this to your beliefs? Yeah, you can apply it. You say that your belief is born, that it is growing, expanding, energized, it replicates. You have more beliefs of that kind. Maybe they are not exactly alike, but they are relative beliefs, and it may die. Is it a living creature? Well, not exactly, not exactly, because it has no its own body. It is an abstract living creature, but it is a living creature inside of your mind. It has its own voice. It will demand for food, replication, and dominance. Okay, and this is exactly what happens when we believe that dog is angry. You see that? The voice inside your head say, when you see a dog, instead of so you move this way, you see dog here, yes, and instead of moving this way, yes, you start moving this way in order to minimize chances to interact with a dog. So your belief, it makes you act a different way. Well, actually, you only act the way your belief say. You don't act other ways. So what are these beliefs? Biologically, they are connections between neurons, synapses, and they are installed algorithms. They are subconscious thinking. They are not voluntary activity. So you are afraid of dogs. You're afraid them subconsciously. This is not your will, either to afraid of them or not to afraid of them. This is not your free will. But at some point of your history, it's simply installed. And now it is influencing your behavior. It is influencing your thinking, depending on how hard your belief is. Okay, so treat your beliefs as living creatures and treat yourselves as living creatures. Well, if you treat it this way, then the collective number of beliefs, the demand for these beliefs, it may overweight some other demands of other beliefs. Let me show it this way. Maybe you will understand the reason of some problems. There is a problem nowadays we have lots of fat people, overweight people, whatever you call them, fat people. Why this happens? Because the technology developed to such extent that we can produce much more food that we can consume first, and this food has much more calories than it earlier had. Yes, so the cost of calories, F calorie, is less than it was previously. If we say, let's say 100 years ago, a person which was 100 kilograms weight, yes, you can only see these guys in circus, like something outstanding. But nowadays it is almost normal to be 100 kilograms and to have that subcutaneous fat, lots of subcutaneous fat. It is kind of normal. Why only 100 years ago we didn't have that situation? Why it was so? Because there was not enough food, was not enough calories. I mean, when I say food, it was not enough calories. Not everybody could afford himself to eat meat. Yes, meat is much more, has more calories if compared to, let's say, grass. Yes, poor humans, they could only consume cucumbers, but wealthy humans, they could consume meat or eggs or something that is that has more calories. Of course, you cannot consume only cucumbers. If you only consume cucumbers, this will lead to the fact that you will be eating, and you will still be losing weight, because cucumbers have so small number of calories that this is not enough. Even if you eat 24 hours a day, this is not enough for you to survive, and of course you cannot become overweight. Well, so the problem nowadays is because of technology, calories are not costly, they are not expensive at all, and almost everybody can afford himself to eat as much as he wants. Almost nobody feels hungry, but in fact, biologically and evolutionary, we were made to feel hungry. We should feel hungry. It is our natural state, feeling hungry. If you feel hungry, your brain activates, the food behavior activates, and you start solving problems. You see that? But if you don't feel hungry, well, your brain never activates. I was talking about this in the second lesson. Well, now today let me show you the example. So we have some fat guys. So this is skin. This is what we have under our skin. We have some cells. So if you have calories that exceed the number of calories that you can consume, it is not lost, it is stored. How it is stored? Our organism, it creates cells under our skin mostly, and if you guys studied good in middle school, of course you should know that the membrane of cell, it consists of a phospholipid. Phospholipids are fat acids. So all the excess of calories, it's stored in cells. So to store fats, to store calories, our organism creates cells. So inside of these cells, it places some fat. fat here and fat here. Okay, let me move it, draw it this way. So these are cells containers under our skin, the so-called subcutaneous skin or subcutaneous fat. Okay, so if you have calories exceeding the supply, the need exceeding the need, another cell is created. Then one more cell is created, yes, to store your fat. Biologically, they are called fat depots. Fat depots to store fat. So, as I told you, you should think of your cells as living beings. So what this cell wants? It wants food, it wants replication, and it wants dominance. And it will demand food, replication, and dominance. It will demand it from where? Because it lives in kind of society, it will demand it from our brain. It will demand it from the other part of our organism. So it demands for food. This one 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 demands for food. You see, the more cells you have, the greater is the demand for food. And you have nothing to do but increase your calories up to 2 calories, 3 kilocalories, 5,000 calories. When I say calories, I mean kilocalories. 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 kilocalories, 6,000 kilocalories. You cannot resist. You become more and more hungry, and hungry, because you have more and more fat depots. How you can fight this? Of course, you need to stop eating. You will suffer because there's lots of cells demanding for food, and you will feel great hunger. And when one dies, second dies, third dies, the collective demand for food dies, your hunger will become less and less and less and less. Your demand for food will become less and less and less and less. It is only great, the demand for food, when you have lots of these cells. But it then becomes less and less and less. Your hunger becomes less and less and less. So the problem if you are fat, yes, is only that you store that fat. The more fat you store, the hunger you feel. More hunger you feel, the more cells you have. Okay, let us look at this picture from a second perspective. Now suppose that you start some physical activity and you start growing your muscles. So if you will look at your muscles, you will find out that muscle cells are looking like pipes. And inside of those pipes, we have the so-called myofilaments. So they look this way. So these are myofilaments. They can contract and they can relax. Okay, myofilaments. Well, when you start lifting weights or you start any physical activity, you are not growing the number of muscle cells. You are growing the number of myofilaments. And that's why your muscle cell, it becomes wider and wider and wider. Just imagine that situation, yes? And because it becomes wider and wider and wider, it demands more food. So it demands food. If it becomes wider, it demands, let's say, this way, 2 times food, 3 times food, or whatever. Yes, if we compare, it depends on how much it swelled. Okay, but the number of muscle cells, it is something that is not changed. It is recorded in our genes. So let's say if we have 100 muscle cells, we will have 100 muscle cells until we die. And it is impossible to increase that number or decrease that number. We can only increase number of myofilaments inside of muscle cells. And what happens if a muscle cell dies? The so-called cell satellites here between the muscle cells, we have some cell satellites. It grows and replaces that muscle cell, and it turns into muscle cell. Okay, so we have the same number of muscle cells, so you should keep it in mind biologically. Okay, and our muscle cell becomes wider, bigger, greater, and it demands more and more food. So let's say to maintain vitality for this these cells, you need to consume 5k calories. Yes, and to maintain this cell, this big muscle cell, yes, you also need to consume 5k calories, 5,000 kilocalories. Maintain here and maintain here. Of course, the fastest way for you to lose weight, the fastest way for you to lose fat, is to start growing your muscles, because you will simply you may leave the consumption the way you get used to, 5,000 calories, and because you have more muscle cells, not more muscle cells, bigger muscle cells, you have more food demand, and because you have more food demand, you will have food deficit here, food deficit here, food deficit here, and slowly, because you are growing your muscles, your fat will be totally destroyed. This happens. Your muscle is not growing when you spend your time in a gym. It is growing when you have a rest. In a gym, you just do your program, yes, and your muscles then react, growing. They understand that you need some more myofilaments, and they create them demanding food. And when you have a rest, it is the time when all your calories are consumed by your muscles. So if you weight lifts, yes, you grow your muscles faster. If you weight heavy lifts, you grow your muscles faster, and you burn your fat faster. So now you can see that those aerobic things like running, jumping, and whatever gymnastics, it is not very much effective for burning fat. What is effective is weighting lifts. So the more muscle tissue you have, the more calories it consumes, even if you are sleeping. You are sleeping, your muscles are growing, and they consume your calories. So even if you don't increase your nutrition, it will consume, even if you don't decrease your nutrition. Yes, you can slowly destroy your fat and increase your muscles. But if you decrease your nutrition up to 3 or even 2,000 calories, this will happen much faster. So it is very simple, very simple. What you feed, you either feed your muscles And then when you have lots of muscles, for 2 or 3 years, even if you do nothing, these muscles will consume your energy, the excess of your energy, because muscle cells are living creatures. They want to live, and they want food, replication, and dominance. They will consume your muscles by themselves, even if you do nothing. But of course, they will slowly become thinner, 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 and thinner, and your fat will become greater and greater and greater and greater if you do nothing. Okay, so we just deviated from the topic of our today's discussion. Now let's go back to our beliefs. So suppose this is belief number 1 that helps you generate money, and this is belief number 2 that actually prevents you from generating money. So what you feed more, yes, what you train is what helps you. Now let's talk about such belief like money belief. So what beliefs we have in our society? Belief number 1 is that, for example, money do not plant on trees. Money doesn't plant on trees. Money is the result of hard work. This is the second belief. In order to get money, you need to deceive, you need to betray, you need to kill somebody. Well, that's pretty true. Well, belief number 4 is that money is not lying on the ground. It is relative to belief that number 1, that money is not planting on trees. Okay, so what other beliefs about money we have? Belief that you need to spend lots of time learning how to generate money. Yes, it is a belief. So because our beliefs, they govern our thinking process, they govern our behavior. Because of that, we perceive the world the way they allow us to perceive. Instead of seeing opportunities to generate money, when we look at the chart, we see opportunities to lose money, because we have belief that it is much easier to lose money or spend money than to generate money. Money generate hard, and spend money is easy. If you have that belief, you act according to your beliefs. You think according to your beliefs. Let's talk about some godlies. For example, you don't believe that godly work. Yes? So every time when you look at a chart, you will only see situations like this, when godly didn't work, when it hit stop loss. So if you look at the chart and you will increase the belief that godly doesn't work, support that belief, support, the belief becomes stronger, it expands, and then it starts demand expression. So you start telling everybody that it doesn't work. Yes? Well, pretty much obvious situation. So you see only those godlies that don't work, and you skip those that do work. On the other hand, what you need to do to solve that problem, you need to start looking at those godlies that did do work. If you look at this godly that worked, look at the second godly that worked, look at the third godly that worked, slowly you will, let's say, the belief that godly don't work was this, and the belief that godly do work was this. On the next step, you slowly make them even, because you found lots of evidence saying that it works. Let's say positive, negative, yes. You found lots of evidence that it works, and now you cannot say they either work or they not work, maybe a 50-50. And then if you spend more time staying here, you will increase that belief that it works versus the belief that it doesn't work. And to tell you the truth, this is purely psychological. Think of it the following way. Our beliefs, they demand support. You can only see those facts that support your belief. So if you believe that godly work, it is not because it objectively works, but because in your trading, your brain only finds winning godlies. How did you acquire that belief? Because you were examining winning godlies on chart history, for example. You were studying winning godlies from books, from whatever. So you slowly were growing this positive belief about godlies until you grown that belief to the extent that it doesn't matter if it works or not. It will work for you. The same way as you are afraid of dogs, and subconsciously you try to avoid interactions with dogs. Subconsciously you try to find evidence for your belief. You see those sharp teeth and other frightening stuff, and you skip the thing that is not working. So think of it that your beliefs are the results of your previous actions. So if you lose money trading, the only one to blame is you yourself, because your actions of those led to these results. Okay, now you should think of it the following way. When you act, you either support one belief or destroy one belief. In most cases, if you don't force yourself, you will only support already existing beliefs. But if you will, I don't know, force yourself to do the opposite, this requires some efforts to reinstall the belief, to replace one belief by some other belief. So I remind you once again, it doesn't matter if a godly objectively works or not. You train your brain. You make your brain believe that it works. And because your belief demands expression, because your belief demands support, you will only see those godlies that actually work. And you will skip those that don't work. You just don't see them. Beliefs affect your perception. That's why you cannot just take somebody's strategy and start using it. Because the guy who created strategy, he developed specific beliefs. And he believes that this strategy works. Objectively, this strategy may be a losing strategy, but he only sees the opportunities that are winning, that support the main idea, because he strongly believes that it works. But how you can strongly believe that it works, that you can generate some money? Well, you need to work on installing those beliefs. So first of all, you need to believe that you can generate money trading. If you don't believe that, you will never generate money. You should have a strong belief that you can generate money. Second, you need to install the belief that generating money is not a hard work. It's just clicking mouse or whatever, pushing a button. It does not require some work. Then you need to install beliefs that money is a merit, it is not a sin. In majority of society thinks that money is a sin. And this is one of those beliefs that prevents you from generating money. Okay, guys, so you think of beliefs as those things that conduct your behavior, that govern your behavior. And next time I will tell you more.